Pre-vlog snack.
Cheers. Do you want to break it in half and trade?
Hello, welcome to Adventures with Mary. I'm Mary. This is Bella. I do the yapping and she brings the vibes. You know what we have to talk about today? There's a bagel on the table just out of frame, so she's very distracted. I started this channel in 2022, filming 100 vlog style videos in 100 consecutive days. But after the vlog era, I went through a lot of personal changes that made me kind of lose my creative spark, and I didn't know how to continue creating vlog style content while my personal life was falling apart in the background. It didn't feel genuine to me to be creating lifestyle content when I wasn't presenting my truest self. So I took a 2-year break from YouTube. But in 2025, I'm making a conscious effort to create content on my channel again, and how I've chosen to do that is by filming podcast style videos once a month, talking about health, relationships, finances, traveling, and goals or milestones, and how those topics relate to me as a girl navigating her mid to late 20s. I also left organized religion this year after coming to the realization that the concepts I'd been taught since childhood were not beliefs that I actually held. And I've started on this curious journey discovering the world around me and what I believe in and where I'm going and what I'm doing. If that's something that interests you, feel free to... Hey, so we're actually not gonna sit here and whine, okay? Come on the other side. Sit, lay down. If that's something that interests you, feel free to subscribe, but if you're not ready to commit to a subscription, please feel free to like the video. That way it has a better chance of getting picked up by the algorithm. I upload a new video every first Monday of the month, but you can also click the notification bell once you subscribe to get a notification every time I upload a video. Are you just gonna sit here and whine at me the whole time? Girl. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you so much for your support. It does not go unnoticed. And with that, let's get started on the video. November. You know, the thing about November is this month was low-key a long month. I keep notes for the show throughout the month, and I was reading some of my notes before I started, and I realized like some of this content has been sitting waiting to be talked about since the beginning of the month, and I just felt like I was in a very different place at the beginning of the month than I am now. So a couple notes for November. I feel like I'm not working hard enough on my dreams. I feel a little bit like my vision for the future is slipping a little bit out of focus, getting a little bit blurry, and part of the reason I think for that is I'm not sure that I'm surrounded by enough inspiration or enough people who are really passionate about life. I wonder if I maybe don't have enough outside inspiration or creative input, whether that's in the content I'm consuming or the people I'm surrounding myself with. I'm not sure. I do think sometimes I get a little bit in my head about the things I'm passionate about, and there's a quote I actually saw on Instagram that I sent my sister. The quote said, "Everything is embarrassing if you live your life through the eyes of others," by the way. I think that I need to focus a little bit more on surrounding myself with people who are passionate about different things, who are excited for the future, who know what they're doing with their lives and have something that just like really drives them. I also think that maybe if I had a little bit more discipline in my personal life, that might help drive the creative spark a little bit. Some ways I think I could develop some discipline are cleaning my room, consistently doing my skincare, and maybe waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning. But here's the thing is I'm notorious for waking up at the last possible minute. So I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. I also find myself trying to exist or trying to find what it means to exist in the middle of the Venn diagram that is hopeful and realistic. I try to stay really hopeful, just like for the future. Something I like to say a lot is like, everything is gonna be okay in the end. If it's not okay, then it's not the end. But I also think that maybe especially with existing in 2025 America, it's really hard to find hope despite or in the midst of realism. So that's a little snapshot on where we are in life right now. First topic we're talking about is health. At the gym, I raised my membership to be the top tier. That way I have access to more of the classes. I haven't attended any of the classes yet, but something I really want to do is go to spin class. And they have those at 5:30 in the morning. Again, refer back to where I said I'm notorious for not waking up in the morning. I haven't been to any of the classes yet, but I would like to eventually start getting to those. At least having the option is nice. Also, November is Diabetes Awareness Month, and I've mentioned before on this channel, I have type 1 diabetes, which is the type I'll be talking about today. Type 1 and type 2 are a little bit different. Type 1 diabetes is a chronic condition where the body's immune system attacks the pancreas, preventing it from producing insulin. Insulin is a hormone that helps the glucose enter the cells for energy. According to the ADA, normal blood sugar levels are 100 or less. So blood sugars are measured in milligrams per deciliter. So when I say a normal blood sugar is 100, that means 100 milligrams of sugar per deciliter of blood. Because my pancreas does not produce insulin, I wear an insulin pump that is attached to my body 24/7. I can program this to give me different amounts of insulin throughout the day. It is connected to my body. I change the port on this every 3 days. I also wear a continuous glucose monitor that checks my blood sugar 24/7, and it sends readings to my phone every 5 minutes throughout the day. So as you can see right now, my sugar is 138 milligrams of sugar per deciliter of blood. And then you can also see what my sugar has been over a 24-hour period. And those are both very helpful tools for me. Since I am using artificial insulin, my blood sugar can range anywhere from 40 to 400. Usually my sugar stays between the 80 and 250 range. This month I did see a lot of 400s, and I'm not really sure why. A lot of different things can affect your blood sugar. How much exercise I've had, what time I woke up, my quality of sleep, how much food I've eaten that day, how much food I haven't eaten that day, the weather, stress, almost anything can affect my blood sugar. I was diagnosed at 14, almost 15. It was a few days after Christmas. As we're getting into the winter months and a lot of people are getting the flu, sometimes the symptoms can look a lot like flu symptoms. So just to spread some awareness, I'm going to share the symptoms from the American Diabetes Association website. Some of the symptoms you should be on the lookout for are urinating often, feeling really thirsty, feeling very hungry even though you're eating a lot of food, extreme fatigue, blurry vision, cuts and bruises that are slow to heal, and weight loss even though you're eating a lot. I think at the time of diagnosis, I was like about around 100 pounds, and I had been eating constantly. I had been waking up in the middle of the night constantly to drink water and go to the bathroom, and I was still losing a lot of weight over a couple month period, even though I was eating a ton of food. So especially as we're getting into flu season, it's really important to be aware. Type 1 diabetes is not caused by eating too much sugar, and there's still no scientific definitive answer about what brings the onset of type 1 diabetes. So I just wanted to share some awareness, especially since that is such an important part of my life. If you've been around here for a while, you know I've been talking about paying off my credit card, and how I've been working on paying that off is fueled through babysitting. How I find a lot of my babysitting clients is through care.com, but I've recently opened up my availability to house cleaning as well, and I got my first house cleaning gig this month. And let me tell you, I had so much fun. I found this great family. They have a daughter who just turned 1, and they have this nice little house, and the mom reached out to me and she's like, hey, like we're looking for a house cleaner. And I was like, sign me up. I've only been over once. They're looking for more, something like once a month. I was able to just go over, put in my earbuds, listen to an audiobook, and just clean for like 2 hours. And it was honestly so much fun. So I've been looking for more house cleaning gigs. I think that I might have a lot of fun doing that. It's a really fun way of getting some work done, seeing the fruits of your labor, and being able to like vibe out, listen to an audiobook while I'm doing it. So stay tuned on that. We're gonna be looking for more house cleaning clients. The reason why I'm trying to pay off my credit card is because I put all of my travel on the credit card, Airbnbs, plane tickets, etc. And I usually try to pay it off right away, but I'm not very good at that. So I end up racking up a bill, and there's more on there than I can pay off by the end of the year. But I do have a call scheduled with a friend in December to talk about opening up a second credit card for travel. She travels everywhere for free with her credit card points, and I think I need to cash in on that quite literally. relationships. I have a lot of things that I wanted to say this month that I think involve me reflecting on a little bit more. We're going to talk about them today, but I think they deserve some extra reflection in my life. A concept I've been exploring recently is the concept of decentering romantic relationships. And what that means is seeing romantic relationships as just one part of a fulfilling life instead of like the end goal or the central focus. While I've only been in one serious relationship and on a number of dates, I think that something that's often driven my desire to like go out and do social things is this little sparkle of like, what if I meet my soulmate there? And I think I've done a little bit of a 180. If you watched my January video, you might remember me saying, I kind of think I want to go on a lot of first dates this year. I spent a lot of time wanting to be desired, wanting to catch someone's eye. And I think over the last few years of my life, that's put me in some vulnerable situations where the guys I was talking to or the guys that I liked didn't actually like me back. And I often felt like I was not enough for them. I've also really come to terms with the fact that I'm on this deeply personal journey of discovering who I am, and it doesn't feel like there's anyone that I realistically want to share that with right now. I think that's partly because I feel like I need to have a lot of room. I need a lot of room to just stretch and grow and discover who I am and not worry about having anyone in that space that's going to be affected by my growing and healing. I feel very protective of my journey. I spent my entire life, my entire childhood, prioritizing and worrying about someone else's emotions because I grew up in an environment of violence and abuse. My experience living in an environment like that, I had to exist in a little box. I had to make sure my emotions and my personality and everything fit inside this little tiny box so that it didn't cause any friction. I had to exist in a way that they wanted me to exist or a way that would cause the least amount of friction. I'm out of that box now. That box opened when I moved to Syracuse almost 5 years ago, but I stayed in that box because that box was home to me for another 4 years. I left that box last year. I started living life on my own terms. I started living as big and as loud as I possibly could. After 26 years of making myself as small as possible, I don't think there's any way I would ever eagerly step into anything that even resembled confinement. And I know those are a lot of really interesting words to use to describe romantic relationships, but I've had a lot of experiences with people who were supposed to love me that felt like I was being put in a box. So naturally, I'm a little scared now. I also recognize that I haven't met someone who's worth considering being in a relationship with. So the door is always open, but it's guarded. So I'm now in the space where I'm trying to prioritize friendship and connection with both men and women. And fortunately, without a romantic interest, my life is still so full of love. So I want to spend some time being focused on building my life, discovering who I am and what I want. And then when the right person comes along, I'll be able to better include them in my path. This month I flew to Phoenix to see my friend Mary get married. I met Mary on social media actually like 7 or 8 years ago. I flew down to Phoenix last year and I spent a few days with her and we like immediately connected. She was such a lovely person, loved every minute hanging out with her. And she got married at the beginning of November and I was not gonna miss it, but I also did not know like a single person at this wedding. I unfortunately lost my car keys right before the wedding, so I was a couple minutes late and so I missed the bridal party's entrance. So there was a group of us standing outside the church waiting to go in, and I met this one girl named Sam, and I did not know a single person at the reception. So when she got to the reception, I was like, Sam, I need to be with someone, like please can I follow you around? I ended up having a really fun time, really enjoyed going to Arizona. Arizona is just this place that I've never experienced somewhere like it before, just between like the desert and the cactuses and the clear skies and the heat. I don't know, it always just makes me question reality. For entertainment, we have read, watch, and listen. in. I'm almost finished with To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I'm listening to it here on YouTube on audiobook. I think I have like 2 hours left. I finished watching The Good Place. It was a really good show. I really enjoyed it. It brings up a lot of questions about ethics and morality. I think it helped shape my worldview in some ways. And I listened to 2 episodes from creators Rhett and Link. The first episode I listened to was on Rainn Wilson's podcast Soul Boom. Rainn talked about the concept of spiritual quests and how what you believe in is what you have discovered for yourself, versus how in evangelicalism, the act of questioning beliefs can be seen as wrong, and how that is what we call indoctrination. Rainn mentioned how it's a right and a responsibility to dig into your beliefs and to discover what you believe in. And that felt really validating for me because that's the kind of journey that I'm on currently. The second episode that I listened to was on Rhett and Link's podcast called Ear Biscuits. It was episode 466. Called What is a Spiritual Atheist? It was such an interesting conversation between Rhett and Brittany Hartley from No Nonsense Spirituality on spiritual atheism, which is a concept I had not heard of before. Now, my journey has not taken me explicitly down a path of atheism. I think I more resonate with agnosticism, not sure if there is a God or a creator, if you will. I think I'm more lean towards there being a creator than not, but I don't necessarily believe in the version of God that religion taught me. But something that Brittany talked about is how atheism is not for everyone. Some people need religion to give them answers, and I fully understand that. For me, in my spiritual journey or my deconstruction journey, the answers that religion presented me with were not sufficient. And something I go back to a lot is the idea that, if you're familiar with the Adam and Eve story, my earliest ancestor came from a man's rib. That sounds like mythology to me. Mythology is defined as a collection of myths, which are often stories involving supernatural beings that culture uses to explain the world, its creation, and the human condition. I think mythology is all well and good, but in my experience, I think if you find a set of stories that satisfy your curiosity about the world and where you're going, that's great for you. But in my experience, belief in the credibility of these stories was tied to my outcome in the afterlife. And I think that's where the line exists between mythology and indoctrination, is when you start tying these beliefs to the outcome of your afterlife. And that was something that I experienced, was like, if I don't believe in these things, if I don't believe in the catechism of the religion that I was born into, then I was not going to make it to the good place in the afterlife. And in this episode, they also talked about the concept of vertical and horizontal morality. Vertical morality is based on how your actions align with the morality of the overseeing authority. The moral authority comes from an external superior source or higher power, religious leader, or tradition. Horizontal morality is good and bad based on whether it helps humans thrive or suffer, and it focuses on the well-being of one's community. If you're practicing horizontal morality, you're also most likely practicing vertical morality. However, I think in mainstream Christianity in 2025 America, we've seen a lot more vertical morality that can often be more dangerous for minorities and human progress. Goals and milestones. Our last section. We have a lot to talk about here. Well. This is probably the section that a lot of you have come to hear me talk about. I posted about this on my Instagram a couple days ago about how I purchased my first pair of jeans at 25, I think. November 18th, 2023, I purchased my first pair of jeans. And now for most people, buying jeans is not that big of a deal, but I had never worn a pair of jeans in my life. In my last video, I talked a little bit about how I grew up in a cult-like environment, but there were 2 cult-like environments that I was surrounded by growing up and for most of my life. The first one was a religious environment, and the second one was a home environment. There was a dress code that I followed that originated through my church, but was also followed within my home. This dress code was mostly geared towards women. I don't think there was ever really anything for men necessarily, other than like a blanket idea of like general modesty, but the dress code that I followed was very conservative. I wore skirts and dresses only. I couldn't have anything more than 2 finger lengths below my neckline. I always wore sleeves. Some more conservative families, the girls would wear like 3/4 length sleeves, but my sleeves were always on the longer side. I never wore anything that was tank top style. If I ever had a sleeveless dress, I always wore a jacket or a sweater over it. All of my skirts were meant to be 2 inches below my knees, and I never wore anything that was too tight or revealing. The only caveat to the skirts and dress only dress code was for athletic wear. I would wear yoga pants or leggings with shorts over them when I went running, and I ran a lot on my own during high school and after high school because, again, as I've mentioned, I grew up in a very violent environment. It was a way for me to get my stress out by hitting the road and getting some miles in. I actually had a friend reach out to me when I was probably 19, 20. I had posted on my Instagram that I was going for a run. You could see I was in pants, and then this girl reached out to me who was not even in my church. She was in a completely different church, and she sent me a long message about how she was really disappointed to see me wearing pants and compromising what I believe in and how I dress. I think that the history of this dress code came as a part of the purity culture movement. And if you're unfamiliar with that, purity culture was a movement from the 90s within evangelical Christianity, emphasizing purity before marriage, and it put a heavy responsibility on women to act and dress in such a way that prevented men from sinning. And it placed a lot of the responsibility for men's thoughts and actions on women. And without getting too deep into purity culture, for me, because this dress code was so heavily rooted in protecting what men thought about me, and because what men think is so subjective, it was like I was playing a losing game. I just completely disassociated from my body. I've struggled for a long time to be perceived, to be seen as attractive or desirable. It's had these lasting effects of me just being completely disassociated from my body. And I'm working on bringing more awareness back into my body. But kind of circling back to this milestone of buying that first pair of jeans. In my video for May, I talked about my experience seeing the Superfine exhibit at the Met in New York City, and how it got me thinking a lot about the link between controlling what a person wears and how that controls what they think and how they act. For me, I think that buying that first pair of jeans was almost like this first real step that I took into making my own decisions, gaining control over how I think and how I act. The same day that I bought the pair of jeans, I went home right after buying this pair of jeans because I had a therapy session. And in the session, I talked about my relationship with God. I sobbed my entire way through this session. I had felt like I was really disconnected from God. Unfortunately, about 6 months after that therapy session, there was an experience I had that was kind of like the last nail in the coffin with God. God didn't exist to me anymore. I finally got to this point where I didn't know who God was. The only thing I knew was that he wasn't coming to help. And I had taken action enough times to realize that any change I wanted to see in the world had to come through my own actions. Where I sit today, wearing the clothes I want to wear, making my own decisions, discovering what I think and what I believe in is so completely wrapped up in this one big tangled mess. But every time I wear a pair of jeans today, or every time I wear a pair of pants or put on a sleeveless shirt, there's almost a little bit of like rebellion inside. And it's not the rebellion of I'm wearing what I want to wear. It's more like, you can't control me anymore. I cannot be controlled. So, cheers to not being controlled. I think we're gonna leave it at that. I think that is gonna be the end of this video. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're all ready for Christmas. I've already started listening to Christmas music. I'm out here getting in the spirit of Christmas. I have to do laundry. I have to go to the store. Oh, I have to go to the store and it's raining out. I have to go to the store and pick up items to make a charcuterie board tomorrow. So I'm gonna close out the video here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for stopping by to my corner of the internet. And as always, keep being awesome. Everything is going to be okay. Drink your water and tune in next month for a new video. I love you. Peace out. Stop clapping your hands. Womp womp. 7 minutes and we're not even through the intro yet. Get it together. I am hot. I am toasty. That was not eloquent at all. We're gonna scrub all of that.